The Council betrayed us, then Earth's fleet came and left no one standing. Sci-fi. For decades, this group of leaders, scientists, and diplomats promised to protect humanity from dangers beyond the stars. After first contact with other civilizations, the Council's words gave people hope. They said the galaxy was full of wonders, but also threats, and that Earth could not survive alone. The Council claimed it had negotiated agreements with alien powers to keep humans safe. Everyone believed them. In the early days, it seemed like their promises were true. The Council organized a global communication network explaining how Earth's defenses would be upgraded and how citizens could expect a new era of security and peace. Children learned about space exploration and interstellar diplomacy in school. Adults followed Council broadcasts, reading reports of new treaties and peaceful agreements. There was a sense of pride in being part of a planet that could work together, even against unknown threats. Yet not everything felt right. Some people noticed small inconsistencies in the Council's announcements. Reports about defense systems didn't always match reality. Satellites that were supposed to be fully operational sometimes sent incomplete or delayed signals. Certain areas of the planet had strong defense shields, while others were strangely vulnerable. Few noticed these signs, but those who did couldn't explain them at first. Among these watchers were a group of former military officers, engineers, and analysts. They had dedicated their lives to defending Earth and understood the risks of untested technology or over-reliance on diplomacy. They observed quietly, comparing Council statements with real-time data. The more they looked, the more they saw evidence that the Council might not be acting solely in humanity's best interest. Still, they couldn't prove anything. People outside this small group dismissed their warnings as paranoia. The Council's public image was too strong. Every announcement, every ceremony, every speech built the illusion that humanity was united and secure. The Council was portrayed as wise and honorable, like a guardian that would never fail. Life went on normally for most people. Streets bustled, markets thrived, and families continued with their routines. Some even looked forward to the day humans would live among the stars. But beneath the surface, tension was growing. Those who worked in defense installations began noticing strange orders. Certain weapon systems were turned off or left incomplete. Some communication networks had hidden restrictions that only insiders could see. Engineers and officers whispered among themselves, confused and frustrated. One officer, a retired fleet commander named Marcus Lee, remembered the old days when Earth had no allies and no council. Back then, humans relied on themselves, trusting training, preparation, and knowledge. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the Council's promises, while comforting, were preventing people from truly preparing. The Council wanted everyone to feel safe, but Marcus and his colleagues knew that appearances could be deceiving. As months passed, more unusual events occurred. The Council held a public ceremony announcing that new defense satellites had been activated to protect Earth's orbit. Crowds cheered, and news outlets praised the Council's work. But Marcus's team, monitoring the satellites from a secret control center, saw that many were not responding correctly. Some had power surges, while others failed to connect to the command network. He tried to report the issues through proper channels, but the responses were vague, and investigations seemed to stall. At the same time, some ordinary citizens began feeling a vague sense of unease. They noticed that certain regions were not receiving Council updates as consistently as others. Rumors started circulating about secret agreements the Council might be making with alien powers. Some dismissed these ideas as conspiracy, but the feeling of distrust grew quietly. People didn't know who to trust. Even the media, often controlled or influenced by Council policies, could not fully investigate the claims without risk. In one city, a young scientist named Lena Patel worked in communications research. She had grown up learning to respect the Council, believing they were humanity's protectors, yet she couldn't ignore anomalies in data transmission she was analyzing. Signals from satellites and monitoring stations sometimes disappeared for hours. Data files were altered, apparently without explanation. She mentioned her concerns to her supervisor, only to be told that the Council's decisions were final, and questioning them publicly could cause panic. Meanwhile, the Council continued to broadcast messages of peace and security. They presented themselves at public events as tireless leaders guiding humanity toward a safer future. Children waved from balconies, families celebrated, and the world seemed to continue normally. The contrast between public appearances and private suspicions created a strange tension. Those who doubted the Council had to act carefully, sharing their concerns only with trusted friends and colleagues. Even with growing suspicion, no one had clear proof of wrongdoing. The Council's representatives were clever, ensuring that their secret activities remained hidden. They signed documents, conducted secret negotiations, and monitored communications in ways most people could not detect. While the public trusted them completely, a small group of observers quietly prepared for the possibility that the Council's promises might not be what they seemed. One night, Marcus and his team gathered at a hidden observation center on the outskirts of a mountain range. Screens displayed satellite feeds, global communications, and power grids. They compared Council reports with actual system performance. The discrepancies were undeniable. Key defense stations were disabled. Certain cities were left unprotected, and communication lines had suspicious restrictions. Marcus turned to his team and said, "We need to keep watching. Something is wrong, and the people have no idea." Lena, observing from another terminal, added, "I can track the altered signals. If we follow the pattern, we might find out why the Council is doing this. They aren't making mistakes, they're making choices." The group knew they were risking everything by investigating. If the Council discovered their activities, the consequences could be severe. Yet they also understood that waiting and doing nothing could be far worse. Humanity's safety might depend on a few people who were willing to see the truth, even if it was uncomfortable. As days turned into weeks, the small group continued their work. They secretly mapped defense systems, recorded Council broadcasts, and tracked anomalies. They also began sharing warnings with a trusted network of retired officers and scientists. The message was clear: appearances could not be trusted, and Earth might be more vulnerable than anyone realized. Meanwhile, ordinary citizens continued to trust the Council. They went to work, studied, raised families, and participated in the celebrations of progress. Most had no idea that some regions were left unprotected, that satellites were offline, or that critical communications could be intercepted. Life went on, comfortable and seemingly secure. Yet even in this world of normalcy, small cracks began to appear. People noticed delays in broadcasts, strange instructions from local authorities, and unexplained power outages. Though minor, these events caused a subtle unease that some could not shake. Rumors whispered through communities, but they were dismissed as exaggerations. By the end of the first year under this new system, the divide between public perception and reality had grown. On the surface, the Council appeared flawless, guiding humanity with wisdom and care. Beneath that surface, however, a few watched quietly, noting the gaps and errors that the public could not see. They were determined to protect humanity in ways the Council would not allow. The stage was set for a revelation that no one would see coming. For now, people celebrated the Council, trusting that they were safe. But in secret observation centers and quiet laboratories, a different story was unfolding, one of vigilance, suspicion, and the slow realization that sometimes those entrusted to protect may not be entirely honest. And somewhere in the distance, beyond Earth's orbit, the first faint signals of forces unseen began to move. The Council's promises were about to be tested in ways no one could imagine. As months passed, the quiet unease among the few who watched closely began to grow stronger. Marcus Lee, Lena Patel, and their small team had been observing Earth's defense systems, satellites, and Council communications for months. At first, they had only seen small discrepancies, minor errors that could have been dismissed as technical glitches, but now the pattern was clear. The Council was not just making mistakes. They were making choices, and those choices were putting Earth at risk. It began with a report from one of the outer satellite stations. Normally, these stations sent constant data about space activity, nearby celestial objects, and distant communications. But one day, a station simply went silent. Attempts to contact it failed. The council issued an official statement claiming the disruption was a minor technical issue and that the station was operating under secure protocols. Most of the public accepted this explanation, but Marcus and his team had access to more detailed data. They knew the silence was unusual. Lena analyzed the logs and found something alarming. Certain defense systems that should have been active were offline. Some weapons arrays were disabled in ways that could not have been accidental. Power grids meant to support emergency defense were restricted. It was as if someone had deliberately left key parts of the planet unprotected.
Marcus reviewed the evidence and said quietly, "This is not an oversight. Someone on the council is making a choice to leave us vulnerable."
The team realized the implications immediately. If an external force chose to attack, vast areas of Earth could be left exposed. And the council, the very leaders people trusted to protect them, had the power to prevent these defenses from working. The thought was unsettling. They weren't just facing potential danger from space. They were facing betrayal from their own leaders. The group decided to act carefully. They could not risk going public without solid proof, because the council controlled communication networks and the media. Anyone spreading rumors without evidence could be silenced or accused of causing panic. Marcus knew they had to build a clear picture before warning anyone. "We need facts," he said, "and we need to watch quietly. Panic doesn't save lives. Preparation does." While Marcus and his team worked, the council continued its public campaign. They held speeches, ceremonies, and media events, claiming that Earth was stronger than ever. Citizens applauded, proud of their leaders. Families watched council broadcasts together, believing in promises of safety. But beneath the surface, the reality was very different. Certain regions remained weak, communication lines were restricted, and some monitoring systems had gaps that even ordinary citizens could not detect. At one of the secret observation centers, Lena traced altered signals from the satellites. She discovered that someone on the council had added hidden instructions that redirected the satellite's focus. Instead of monitoring potential threats, many satellites were recording harmless objects or focusing on areas that posed no danger. It was a clever tactic disguised as routine updates, but the result was clear. Earth's defenses were intentionally weakened. Marcus called a meeting with his trusted network of retired officers and analysts. Around a large table, screens displayed global maps, satellite images, and real-time system activity. He spoke with urgency. "The Council is not preparing to defend us. They have left large areas exposed. If a hostile force strikes, these regions could be devastated. And the worst part is, the public doesn't know. They trust leaders who are making decisions that put everyone at risk." One of the retired officers, a woman named Sophia Reyes, frowned. "Why would they do this? They were elected to protect the people." Marcus shook his head. "It's hard to say. Maybe they made secret deals with others. Maybe they thought this would benefit them personally. But whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. The fact is, they have disabled our protection systems in key areas. We need to assume the worst and prepare quietly." While the team worked on gathering proof, ordinary citizens continued their daily lives. Streets were crowded with people going to work. Children played in parks and markets were busy. Life seemed peaceful and normal. Families trusted the council, believing that Earth's leaders were watching over them. But in small corners of the planet, unusual events began to appear. Certain towns experienced unexplained power fluctuations, delayed communications, or odd satellite signals. People noticed, but the events were brief and inconsistent, easy enough to dismiss. Meanwhile, Lena and her colleagues discovered something more troubling. Communications that should have been private were being monitored or even altered. Messages between different defense centers were delayed, some orders were blocked, and certain data files were mysteriously missing. It was clear that someone was controlling what people could see and hear. Marcus realized that the council was not just neglecting defense. They were manipulating information to hide their actions. The small team decided to take a bold step. Using encrypted networks and backup communication lines, they began sharing their findings with other trusted analysts. Each person received strict instructions. Do not share this information publicly. Do not discuss it outside secure channels. And document everything carefully. The team understood that a single mistake could expose them to the Council's scrutiny, but the risk was necessary. If no one acted, Earth's defenses could be exploited and countless lives might be at risk. Over time, the evidence became undeniable. Multiple satellites were offline, weapon systems were disabled, and emergency protocols had been restricted. The Council's actions were deliberate. It was not negligence, it was betrayal. For Marcus, Sophia, Lena, and the others, the realization was shocking. How could people they trusted with humanity's safety make such dangerous choices? One night, Marcus sat alone in the observation center looking at the stars. He thought about the council members giving speeches to the public, smiling and promising protection. The contrast between what people saw and what was really happening made him feel uneasy. "They think they are untouchable," he said quietly to himself. "But truth has a way of coming out." Lena, working nearby, replied without looking up. "We need to be ready. If we wait until the council is exposed, it may be too late to protect anyone. The moment we hesitate could cost lives." The team spent weeks preparing contingency plans. They mapped every known defense system, identified weaknesses, and created hidden protocols to restore power if needed. They worked in secrecy, often late into the night, because one mistake could alert the council. Marcus understood that their efforts were not just about proving wrongdoing. They were about survival. As the months continued, tension grew quietly across Earth. While most people remained unaware, small anomalies began to cause worry. Local authorities occasionally issued confusing statements. Emergency alerts were delayed, and satellite images showed unusual gaps in coverage. Those who paid attention felt a sense of unease, but without context, the events were hard to interpret. Despite the growing danger, life went on. People continued their routines, trusting the council, unaware that their leaders were making decisions that could leave them vulnerable. Families celebrated milestones, children played in schoolyards, and communities held festivals. The normalcy of daily life made the hidden betrayal even more chilling. Marcus and his team knew the truth. The council had failed in its duty. They had left the planet exposed and manipulated information to hide it, but the observers had also learned something else. Even in secrecy, preparation mattered. By watching, recording, and planning, they could create a safety net that the council refused to provide. As Part 2 draws to a close, the tension builds. Marcus, Lena, and their colleagues continue their quiet work, knowing that the council's actions could have catastrophic consequences. The public remains unaware, enjoying a false sense of security. And somewhere beyond Earth, the first subtle signs of external forces approaching begin to appear. Forces that might test both the council's betrayal and the team's secret preparations in ways no one could yet imagine. The world continued to spin under the council's promises, but in hidden rooms and secret observation centers, a small group of watchers prepared for the moment when the truth could no longer remain hidden. And for them, every day, every detail, every signal mattered, because they knew that trust could be broken and survival might depend on vigilance alone. The small team of observers had been watching Earth's systems for months, gathering evidence, mapping vulnerabilities, and tracking council activity. They had grown accustomed to the quiet tension that came with their work. Every day, they reviewed satellite data, communications, and defense networks, looking for patterns that could reveal what the council was really doing. What they found now was different. There was movement beyond Earth that the council had not prepared for. It started with an unusual signal, faint and irregular, coming from deep space. At first, Lena thought it was a glitch. But after careful analysis, she realized it was deliberate, a coded message or beacon sent by a fleet far beyond the solar system. The signal pulsed at regular intervals, hidden within the noise of normal cosmic activity. Lena worked quickly, decoding its patterns and comparing it with known communication systems. What she discovered sent a chill through her. The message was not meant for the council. It was meant for Earth's hidden defense forces, a signal that had been waiting for years to be received. Marcus gathered the team immediately. "This is it," he said. "Whatever is coming, the council hasn't prepared for it. But we have a chance. They want us to know. This signal is a way to wake up the systems they thought were offline. We need to respond carefully." For the first time, the team felt a mixture of hope and fear. They had been working in secrecy, preparing for potential threats while the Council left Earth vulnerable. Now, it seemed, the fleet from beyond the solar system, the one the Council claimed no longer existed, was responding to a hidden call. Earth's safety was no longer entirely in human hands. Lena explained the signal to Marcus in detail. "It's a coded instruction set," she said. "It tells Earth's hidden fleet how to assemble, where to position itself, and which systems to activate." The Council tried to erase this information, but it survived in backups. "We're the first to see it in decades." The team realized the enormity of the moment. The Council had lied to the public, weakened Earth's defenses, and hidden critical resources. Yet someone, or something, had left a way to respond. Marcus and his colleagues knew that activating these protocols could change everything. It was risky, because if the Council discovered what they were doing, they could try to stop them. But doing nothing could mean disaster if hostile forces appeared before the fleet arrived. The following days were a blur of planning and coordination. Marcus divided the team into groups, each responsible for a different aspect of the response. Lena focused on communication, ensuring that the fleet's instructions could reach Earth's systems without interference. Sophia and the retired officers coordinated defense activation sequences and tested emergency protocols. Everyone worked tirelessly, often skipping sleep, knowing that time was critical. While the team prepared, ordinary citizens continued their daily lives, oblivious to the unfolding events. People went to work, studied, played, and celebrated festivals. News outlets reported normal council activities, praising leaders for their guidance and leadership. No one knew about the signal from deep space, the hidden fleet, or the deliberate weakening of defense systems. To most, Earth seemed peaceful and safe. But in hidden observation centers, tension grew. The team monitored every satellite, sensor, and transmission, waiting for signs that external forces might appear. Every anomaly caused alarm. A small glitch in a communications channel, a delayed satellite response, or a strange orbital object could signal the arrival of danger, Marcus reminded everyone. "We cannot assume anything. The fleet is coming, yes, but we have to make sure Earth is ready when it arrives." Days turned into nights filled with calculations, simulations, and constant monitoring. Lena discovered that some council members had secretly installed surveillance systems to track hidden fleets and signals. They had tried to prevent the team from discovering the beacon, but the signal was cleverly disguised, and the team had managed to bypass the council's interference. It was a silent race against time, the team against both the council's deception and the unknown forces approaching Earth. Then, the first visible signs appeared. Small ships, barely detectable, entered Earth's orbit. They were distant, almost like stars at first, but their movements were precise, coordinated, and unlike any known technology. The Council continued to broadcast calm messages, insisting that all was well. But Marcus and the team knew the truth. Earth was about to see forces far stronger than anything the Council had prepared for. Lena activated the hidden protocols embedded in Earth's defense network. Satellites powered up, communication lines opened, and hidden monitoring stations came online. For the first time in decades, parts of the planet that had been left vulnerable were now connected to a larger, more capable system. The team felt a surge of cautious optimism. This was what they had been preparing for, the moment when hidden forces could respond to the Council's betrayal. As the ships moved closer, Marcus noticed patterns in their formation. They were organized in a way that suggested years of planning and coordination. It was clear that whoever controlled these ships had studied Earth extensively. They were not here to negotiate. They were here to ensure that Earth's systems were restored and protected. Meanwhile, the Council remained unaware of the fleet's true intentions. They continued their public appearances, smiling and reassuring the public. Inside, however, some council members had begun to notice unusual activity. Satellites that had been offline were suddenly transmitting data. Hidden communications channels were active. For the first time, the Council realized that their control over Earth's defenses might no longer be absolute. The tension inside the team grew as well. Activating the protocols was only the first step. coordinating with a fleet they had never seen, following instructions from a signal decoded in secret, required precision and trust.
One small mistake could cause a system failure, endanger lives, or alert the Council prematurely. Marcus reminded everyone. We are the bridge between what's hidden and what's coming. Every calculation matters. As night fell, the fleet's presence became more apparent. The distant ships glowed faintly against the darkness of space, moving with purpose. Marcus and the team monitored their approach, coordinating Earth's hidden defense arrays to align with the incoming fleet. Every system responded in ways that the Council had believed impossible. For the first time, it became clear that Earth was not defenseless. The Council had lied to the public, but hidden forces, guided by a signal from deep space, were ready to act. At the same time, ordinary citizens began noticing subtle changes. Satellite images showed unusual activity, communications experienced minor disruptions, and some defense systems briefly appeared on public screens. Most people dismissed these as glitches or routine tests. They had no idea that behind the scenes, Earth's hidden fleet was assembling, preparing to respond to a danger they could not yet see. The team worked tirelessly through the night. Lena coordinated the activation of hidden satellites and communication arrays. Sophia monitored power grids and emergency systems. Marcus kept a constant watch on orbital data, comparing movements with the decoded instructions from the fleet. Every calculation, every adjustment, every careful decision mattered. The fate of Earth rested on their ability to coordinate what had long been hidden from the public and the Council alike. By dawn, the first major alignment was complete. Satellites and monitoring stations were fully operational. Communications with the incoming fleet were established, allowing instructions and updates to flow seamlessly. Marcus looked at the screens, feeling a rare moment of relief. "We're ready," he said quietly. "Whatever comes next, Earth has a chance." But the moment of relief was brief. The Council, still unaware of the hidden forces, began to realize that their control was slipping. Emergency alarms in their private chambers indicated unexpected activity in defense arrays. Security officers reported unauthorized access to satellite controls. The Council's confidence, once unshakable, began to falter. As Part 3 closes, the stage is set for a confrontation that no one could have predicted. The Council's betrayal is about to be exposed. Earth's hidden fleet is assembling, and forces beyond the solar system are arriving to ensure the planet's survival. Marcus, Lena, and their team watch quietly, knowing that the next hours will change everything. And somewhere beyond Earth in the vast darkness of space, the fleet waits, ready to act. Silent but powerful, a force that will restore balance and reveal the truth to a world that has been deceived for too long. The moment had finally arrived. The hidden fleet, long forgotten by the public and assumed lost by the Council, was now in Earth's orbit. It moved with quiet precision, each ship following a predetermined path that no human eyes had ever witnessed before. Marcus, Lena, Sophia, and the rest of the team watched from the observation center, their hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and tension. The fleet's arrival was not an attack, it was a signal of hope, but it would expose the Council's betrayal to the entire world. At first, the fleet appeared distant, tiny lights moving slowly across the sky. Ordinary citizens, unaware of what was happening, noticed them only as unusual stars or flashes. Most dismissed them as satellites, meteor showers, or atmospheric phenomena. News outlets speculated, publishing guesses about strange celestial activity. No one understood the truth. These were Earth's protectors, a fleet designed to ensure survival even when human leaders had failed. Inside the Council chambers, emergency alerts blared across private systems, showing activity in areas that should have been offline. Council members scrambled to understand the anomaly, issuing hurried commands to try to regain control. But every attempt failed. Earth's hidden defense arrays had already aligned with the incoming fleet. Satellites powered up, monitoring stations reactivated, and communication networks linked together seamlessly. The Council realized too late that their power over Earth's systems had been surpassed. Marcus and his team remained calm, but their eyes never left the screens. They monitored every movement, every signal,
every activation sequence. Each ship of the fleet corresponded to an array, a monitoring station, or a defense system on Earth. It was a coordination that had taken decades to plan, a safety net hidden from the Council's oversight. The public might have seen chaos, but behind the scenes, everything was under control. Lena worked frantically, transmitting signals and confirming alignment.
All stations are responding, she said. The fleet is in position. We have full operational control over defense networks. Now we wait for the next instructions.
Sophia and the retired officers coordinated ground systems, ensuring that communication hubs, power grids, and critical infrastructure were prepared for any unexpected events. For the first time in years, they felt a sense of purpose beyond secrecy. Their work was not just technical. It was about protecting millions of lives from potential disaster. Meanwhile, the fleet began broadcasting its presence. The signal was not aggressive. It was an organized, clear display. A reminder that Earth was never truly defenseless. It illuminated the sky with coordinated patterns of light and movement, visible only to those who knew where to look. Marcus and his team understood immediately. The fleet was testing Earth's hidden systems, making sure that all arrays, satellites, and communication networks were fully operational. The Council panicked. Some members demanded explanations from their advisors. Others tried to hide from the data feeds, showing that their control had been bypassed. Panic spread quickly among those who had relied on secrecy and deception. They had believed Earth was entirely under their control. Now they understood that a force beyond their manipulation had arrived. Despite the tension inside the Council, life continued normally for ordinary citizens. People walked outside, watched news broadcasts, and went about their daily routines. Few noticed the faint glows of the fleet in orbit, and even fewer understood the significance. To most, the world seemed unchanged, peaceful, and secure. The contrast between public perception and hidden reality was striking. Inside the observation center, Marcus and the team prepared for the next stage. The fleet's presence was not enough on its own. They had to ensure that Earth's systems could respond in an emergency. Marcus addressed the team, his voice steady but firm.
We've activated the arrays. We've aligned the fleet. But the Council is still here, still trying to maintain control. Our job is to make sure no mistakes happen. We cannot let their errors jeopardize Earth's safety.
Lena nodded.
All protocols are running. We just need to maintain alignment and monitor the fleet.
The ships are coordinating perfectly with our systems. Nothing is being left to chance. As hours passed, the fleet began to take further action. It deployed smaller units to orbit closer to critical regions, scanning and mapping with incredible precision. Areas that had been left exposed by the Council were now monitored, communication channels secured, and defense systems ready for activation. It was a display of meticulous planning and power, designed to ensure no harm would come to Earth despite years of neglect. The Council's panic grew. They attempted to override systems, send emergency orders, and block signals, but every effort failed.
Earth's hidden fleet responded to every command, following protocols that the Council could not access.
Members of the Council began to realize that their betrayal had consequences. For decades, they had assumed humans would remain unaware. Now, their actions were exposed not by revolt, not by discovery, but by forces beyond their control. Marcus observed quietly, noting each reaction, each failure of the Council to regain control. He felt no joy in their panic, only focus.
This was about ensuring that Earth remained safe. Any resentment or anger could come later. Focus on what matters, he reminded the team. The Council's mistakes are obvious now, but our priority is to protect the planet.
Certain satellites transmitted images and information, showing previously unseen parts of space. Communications improved dramatically, and areas previously experiencing signal delays or interference were now functioning normally. To ordinary citizens, these changes seemed sudden and mysterious. People began to ask questions, noticing that something unusual had happened in their skies and communication networks. Meanwhile, the team worked on confirming that no errors had occurred in the system alignment. Every satellite, every monitoring station, and every hidden protocol was tested and retested, Marcus reminded them.
Even one mistake could have consequences.
The fleet can protect us, but our work ensures that it can do so effectively. For the first time, the truth about the council began to emerge in subtle ways. Some council members were quietly investigated by internal auditors who could no longer hide evidence of missing resources and disabled systems. Reports of deliberate failures, manipulated signals, and ignored protocols began to surface. The public had yet to hear the full story, but the cracks in the council's image were becoming visible. The fleet, despite its size and power, did not attack. Its purpose was protection, restoration, and coordination. Every action it took was precise, intentional, and non-violent. It restored security systems, monitored vulnerable regions, and demonstrated a level of organization that humans had not seen in decades. Marcus and the team realized that this was a turning point. Earth had survived potential danger not because of its leaders, but because of careful planning, secret systems, and forces that had never abandoned humanity. As night fell over Earth, the fleet's lights created a faint, beautiful glow in orbit. It was visible only through telescopes or sensitive instruments, but Marcus, Lena, and the team knew the full truth. The fleet had arrived. The Council had been exposed, and Earth's systems were stronger than they had ever been. The tension, fear, and secrecy of the past months had finally led to a moment of clarity and reassurance. Even as ordinary citizens slept, unaware of what had happened in orbit, the team continued their work. Communication channels remained monitored, defense arrays kept active, and the fleet's presence ensured that any unexpected events could be handled immediately. For Marcus, Lena, Sophia, and the others, this was a moment of quiet triumph. They had witnessed the arrival of forces they had only studied in data and signals. Forces that restored Earth's safety, despite years of neglect. The Council, now humbled and confused, began to understand that their power had limits. Their secrecy and manipulation had been bypassed, and their betrayal had been revealed, not through rebellion, but through careful preparation, hidden forces, and unseen allies. For the first time, they faced the reality that trust and vigilance were more powerful than authority alone. As Part 4 comes to a close, the story reaches its dramatic turning point. Earth's hidden fleet has arrived, aligning with secret defense systems and revealing the Council's failures. The public remains largely unaware, but the truth is undeniable for those who have prepared, observed, and acted in secret. The stage is set for the final reckoning, where the Council's betrayal will be fully revealed, and Earth's survival will be secured by the forces it had long overlooked. For Marcus, Lena, Sophia, and the rest of the team, this is not the end. It is the moment they have been waiting for, the moment when vigilance, preparation, and courage combine to ensure that humanity is safe, despite betrayal from its supposed leaders. The arrival of Earth's hidden fleet had changed everything. The Council, long trusted by the people, was exposed for its mistakes, its secrecy, and its betrayal. Marcus, Lena, Sophia, and the other members of the observation team had watched carefully as every system aligned, every ship moved into position, and every defense array came online. Now, the moment of reckoning had arrived. For ordinary citizens, life seemed to continue as usual. Children played in schoolyards, markets were busy, and families went about their daily routines. Few understood what had happened in orbit, and even fewer grasped the truth behind the fleet's arrival. To them, it had been a quiet miracle, an improvement in satellite communications, a sudden boost in security. They felt safer, but they did not know why. Inside the council chambers, the mood was very different. Leaders who had once commanded respect were now scrambling to understand what had happened. Reports of restored systems, unexpected signals, and the fleet's coordination left them stunned. Their attempts to regain control had failed, and their previous actions, turning off defenses, hiding information, and manipulating communications, were being uncovered. Panic and disbelief spread among the members. Marcus gathered the team in the observation center. "This is the moment we've been waiting for," he said. "The fleet has done its part. Our job now is to ensure that Earth remains safe, and that the Council cannot undo what has been restored. The people may not see everything, but we know the truth." Lena nodded, her eyes on the screens showing the fleet's operations. "All systems are stable. Communications are open. Monitoring arrays are active everywhere. Earth's safety is now guaranteed, even if the Council refuses to cooperate." For the first time in years, the team felt a sense of relief. They had spent months working in secrecy, preparing for a threat that the Council had ignored and that most people could not imagine. Now the fleet had arrived, the systems were operational, and Earth's defense was stronger than it had ever been. The Council, however, faced a different reality. Internal investigations began immediately. Advisors and auditors, once silenced or ignored, were now able to review evidence of the Council's actions. Satellites and monitoring stations had recorded every disabled system, every hidden manipulation, and every withheld warning. The Council could no longer hide behind lies or appearances. As news of the Council's failures slowly reached the public, reactions were mixed. Some people felt anger and betrayal, unable to believe that leaders they had trusted for years could have endangered the planet. Others felt relief and gratitude, realizing that Earth had survived despite these mistakes. Yet most still had only a vague sense of what had happened. The full truth would take time to reach everyone, but it was inevitable. Marcus and his team focused on what mattered most, ensuring that Earth systems remained secure. They monitored every satellite, every communication channel, and every defense array. Even with the fleet in orbit, the planet's safety depended on careful oversight and coordination. The fleet cannot protect us from everything, Marcus reminded the team. Our work ensures that no weak points remain, and that the Council's mistakes cannot endanger us again. Lena worked on analyzing data from the fleet, understanding their protocols and movements. She discovered that the fleet had been planning for this moment for decades, waiting for the right signal to respond. It was a testament to patience, planning, and dedication, something the Council had lacked entirely. She realized that Earth had survived not because of its leaders, but because of forces that had never abandoned it, even when humans had failed to protect themselves. Sophia coordinated with retired officers and analysts around the world. Together, they ensured that Earth's communication networks were fully operational, that power grids could handle emergencies, and that monitoring stations could respond to any threat. For the first time in decades, there was a sense of unity and purpose that did not rely on leadership from the Council. The planet's safety was now in the hands of those who had prepared, observed, and acted quietly but decisively. The Council tried to regain authority, but their power had been diminished. Citizens began questioning decisions, policies, and actions taken in secrecy. Public trust, once unquestioned, had eroded. The team observed quietly as investigations continued, knowing that accountability was being restored not through violence or confrontation, but through transparency and truth. Even as the Council struggled, the public began to notice positive changes. Communication networks were faster, more reliable, and free from the delays and restrictions that had been common under the Council's control. Satellite imagery and monitoring systems provided clearer information about space and Earth's environment. Emergency systems that had been disabled were now fully operational. People felt safer without knowing the full story behind the improvements. For Marcus, Lena, Sophia, and the team, the work was far from over. While the fleet ensured immediate safety, the long-term survival of Earth depended on vigilance. They continued monitoring systems, training new personnel, and preparing for any future threats. Their efforts were not for recognition or praise. They were for the people, for the planet, and for the future. In the days that followed, small signs of accountability emerged. Council members were questioned, documents were reviewed, and public statements acknowledged errors. The revelations were careful, measured, and designed to restore trust without causing panic. The team observed silently, knowing that transparency and preparation were more important than headlines or applause. Citizens slowly began to understand that Earth had survived not because of its leaders, but because of unseen forces and careful planning. Schools included lessons on the hidden fleet, the importance of vigilance, and the consequences of trust without accountability. Families discussed the need for preparation, awareness, and understanding of forces beyond immediate perception. The story of survival became a lesson in responsibility, not fear. The Hidden Fleet, after completing its initial operations, began to withdraw gradually. It did not linger to assert authority or demand control. Its presence had been enough to restore balance, demonstrate strength, and ensure that Earth's systems were functional. Marcus watched as the ships moved silently, leaving Earth's orbit while maintaining monitoring from a safe distance. The message was clear. Humanity was responsible for its future, but assistance would always come when needed. Lena reflected on the months of work that had led to this moment. From the first unusual signals to decoding hidden instructions, coordinating defense arrays, and monitoring the fleet, everything had required patience, skill, and trust in unseen allies. She realized that humanity's survival had depended not on the Council, but on preparation, courage, and the willingness to act quietly when others refused to see the truth. Sophia summarized the lessons of the experience to the rest of the team.
We've learned that trust must be earned, that vigilance is essential, and that preparation saves lives. The Council failed, but we proved that even a small group, working carefully and responsibly, can protect millions. That is the true story of survival. As weeks passed, Earth began to rebuild.
The Council's influence waned, replaced by provisional assemblies and committees focused on transparency, preparation, and accountability. Citizens were involved in discussions about defense, science, and communication networks. The planet entered a new era of awareness, where vigilance and understanding became more important than blind trust in leadership. Marcus, Lena, and the team continued to observe and train new analysts.
Their mission had expanded from secret monitoring to public guidance and education. They taught the importance of preparation, attention to detail, and responsibility. The story of the Council's betrayal became a cautionary tale, reminding everyone that survival depended not on appearances, but on readiness and integrity. The hidden fleet, now distant but still present in monitoring stations beyond the solar system, had completed its mission.
Earth was secure, its systems restored, and the people gradually aware of the truth. Marcus looked at the stars, thinking of the journey that had led to this moment. He knew that the world would never be the same, but it had survived, and that was what mattered most. The final lesson was clear. Betrayal could be survived if vigilance, preparation, and courage guided actions.
Trust should be questioned, leaders held accountable, and responsibility shared among those willing to act quietly and wisely.
Humanity had learned a difficult lesson, but one that ensured a safer, stronger, and more aware future.